Squad, it's Quads. Welcome back to another video. Today we are reviewing the Cetus X Kit sent to us by Betafpv. FPV to many pilots is a drug, and what does every good drug need but a gateway? Enter the CetusX from Betafpv. See, the cost of entry to FPV in 2024 is the highest that we've ever seen in this hobby. When I first started, you could buy yourself a drone for 80 quid, a controller for 50 quid, and a screen for next to nothing. Sure, the goggles were still pretty prohibitively expensive at the time, but the rest of it was really cheap. It was rare that you'd ever spend a lot of money on any item other than a set of goggles. Now, in the years that have advanced since this old man started flying FPV, the technology has certainly enhanced and moved forward. When I first started flying, admittedly, I'd plug in a LaPo and I wouldn't actually know if my quad would power or set fire. So we've definitely improved. However, if we go back, say, 3 or 4 years, the technology then is the same as the technology now, but at a fraction of a price. So to get into FPV now, you need to be committed to it. But what if you don't know that you like it or not? See, you can be paying £200 for a stack, but the price has jumped so much because FPV has become so cool and so popular with the kids and the businesses, and prices have just gone wild. So imagine this scenario: you're a new pilot, you're watching videos on YouTube from your boys squadding quads, and you think, damn, I want to crash like he does. Great, let's do some research. Let's get the new DJI goggles at £600, a nice bind and fly. As an example, the iFlight Evoke is one of the most popular bind and flies at £600. Then you want a nice controller to go with that. So let's go with the Radio Master Max at £500. You're going to need lipos as well. You're going to need a few of them, so let's say 5. That's an extra 150 quid. So as a brand new pilot, before you even consider the need for an A2 CFC CAA certification, insurance, before you've even taken off, you're in the hole for £2,000 because you also need a charger. And let's be fair, that's just for the cost of one drone. Everybody knows in FPV, you always need more than one. Most new pilots will see that figure and quite rightly think, I don't know if I'm going to like it. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it. I don't know if I'm going to last the distance. £2,000's a lot of money to dump. So what a lot of new pilots do is say, bugger that, I'll get a Mavic 3. Then they delay themselves by 2 or 3 years. There's another spike in coolness and businesses and, dare I say, war. And the prices, when you find yourself ready to come back to FPV, have increased again exponentially. And this is where this Betafpv Cetus Kit really does come into its own. Because in the box, you have a controller, which you can also use for the simulator. You've got a pair of box goggles, which also have a DVR. Now, there are other kits out there at around about the same price that don't even have a DVR. But Quads, I hear you shriek, what is a DVR? DVR is the thing that allows your goggles to record your flight. See, you're not really going to be flying a HD camera on this, certainly not when you are new to the hobby. But you're going to want to see your flights, you're going to potentially want to post those flights. How do you do that if you don't have a DVR? Well, the answer is you can't. The Emax kit, for example, with the Tiny Hawk, I believe it is, doesn't even have a DVR and is around about the same price. You also get a charger, which also acts as a battery checker as well, so it tells you the voltage of the batteries as well as charging the batteries, which is phenomenal. You get 4 batteries. Now, this is a 2S drone, so that does give you 2 flights, not 4 flights. You get a lovely carry case, stickers, you get stickers. Who doesn't like stickers? But I hear you all cry, Quads, but what is the price if we're talking £2,000? Well, for all the above, you are looking at 229 English pounds or 309 American dollars. Other currencies are available. But again, I hear you cry, surely at that price it's going to be cheap rubbish. And I know, see, it is built to a cost. It is built to a budget. And Betafpv obviously want to make money. So there are going to be some corners cut in places. But that doesn't mean it's rubbish, and that doesn't mean that you should discount it as rubbish. See, Betafpv are a genuine FPV drone manufacturer who produce one of my personal all-time favourite drone, the Pavo 20. What this kit is, and the reason why it's so unbelievably well priced, is it has an analog video transmission system. Now, that's absolutely fine and dandy for micros when you're learning to fly and having fun. Ultimately, you're going to get bitten by the hobby and you're going to want to upgrade. Unfortunately, those goggles are probably going to be the first thing you want to upgrade. I've seen loads and loads of issues with people who have watched a review. The review has then gone on, picked up the $500 pair of goggles that they own and done the review wearing those goggles. And that's not fair to you guys. See, the goggles work. They do exactly what they need to do, but they're not brilliant. They don't have a fantastic range, and they're a little bit dark. And if you try and scan for a new channel whilst recording the DVR, it gets really laggy. So make sure you turn your DVR off before you start scanning for a new channel. Where this kit does really excel is the controller, because this controller has ELRS built. Now, for any potential pilot who doesn't know what ELRS is, that's the control link between your controller and the drone that controls it in the air. Essentially, that's how far you're able to fly before you control the disconnects and your drone drops to the floor like a stone. And with ELRS, you can go... Now, obviously, you have to fly within line of sight, so you can't legally fly miles and miles and miles away. However, I do know of people, and by people I don't mean myself, Civil Aviation Authority, who have flown 10, 20, 30, 40 miles with ELRS. So the old adage of you're going to run out of video signal long before you run out of controller signal is true here. And for a new pilot, that gives you the confidence to know that it doesn't matter where I'm flying, as long as I've got a video signal, I will have control of this drone. And that, for a new pilot, is huge. And then a few years down the line, you think, let's get a 5-inch. And you think, well, I'm going to have to cut some corners to be able to afford a 5-inch drone and a new controller. Fear not. For if you get a 5-inch drone with ELRS built in as the receiver option, you can then use this controller or transmitter with it. You can also potentially get an analog find and fly these days as well with the LRS built in, 5-inch, 3-inch or whatever. 5-inch is what we talk about because that's like the holy grail of FPV. But the drone that you receive with this is more than capable. I have flown this drone in several different locations. I've flown it in high winds, I've flown it quite hard, I've flown it with a high definition camera on top as well. I've done acro stunts with it. I've done so much with it that potentially you would think it wouldn't be capable of when you look at the price, and it's fantastic. So this kit is absolutely fantastic. It's a really good way to start in the hobby. It can also carry you forward too with some of the parts that are included. Now, I'm quite tight with money, so the fact that you can use part of this kit to go on the simulator to fly other drones with is, in my opinion, fantastic. Now let's go through some of the details. Now if we go into Betafpv, we click connect in the top right. Once we plug the drone in, we use the adapter seen on screen. We go into the modes tab. Now we can see in the modes tab that we need to find the VTX pit mode option, and we need to set that up. So we untick hide unused modes, and we go down and we find where it says VTX pit mode. Then we go back up to the top and we click hide unused modes. Now we know that our arm switch is auxiliary 1, and the way we want to set this up now is so that when the arm switch is not pressed, it automatically goes into VTX pit mode. So the way we do that is we select AUX 1 for pit mode. Now if we look on the right hand side, there is a little yellow blip for when arm is enabled. So we need to move this yellow box to the left hand side so that when arm is disabled, VTX pit mode is enabled. Press save and you're done. Simple as that. And that will hopefully add longevity to your VTX. So I've been flying the CetusX kit now for 2 or 3 weeks. The weather hasn't been brilliant, so I haven't been able to do as much as I'd like to have done, but I've flown in 3 different locations. I've freestyled it, I've flown it in angle mode, and I've flown it in horizon mode. There really hasn't been anything that this drone hasn't been able to do that I've thrown at it. It comes in a kit. You've got your controller, your goggles, your charger, your drone, spare propellers, stickers. You've got everything that you could ever need to start you going, and a fraction of the cost of buying everything separately. Sure, we've spoke about the fact that it's analog, which is how Betafpv are able to make it cheaper, but just being analog doesn't equate or make it bad. It's a drone that's put a smile on my face. Where I think this kit really does step into its own is the customer service of Betafpv. See, I put a review out of the Pavo 20 and mentioned that something had come in the post broken. I'd managed to fix it myself, but it was a point that I needed to raise. Betafpv watched the entirety of the review and came to me and said, would like to replace the LEDs that had arrived broken for you. Fantastic. They also listened to the fact that I raised about the props, and while they may not necessarily change them, they have at least listened. So while there are question marks over, is the quality of this kit questionable? Is it going to be too cheap for what it is? Where I would say, first of all, I found no evidence of that. I'd also say, secondly, if you are concerned, then the customer service that Betafpv have showed me is absolutely off the scale. And for that reason, I'm going to give this a recommendation because, sure, like I say, it's built to a cost to get you in the air, to get you into the hobby, to start you off on that road, to be that gateway drug, and it does that job perfectly. I've been Quads. You've been amazing. Until next time, peace.